and not viewed. Because it's being seen, I can see you, and being viewed, you're looking at me. And I just want to thank God for this opportunity that Pastor George has offered me, extended to me in his absence. I do not take it lightly. And as I promised my son in the car, I won't be long, so I'm going to be like a Kardashian wedding and here get out the way. So let's go ahead and jump into the word of God. Coming from the book of John, 21st chapter. Promise y'all won't be in. I promise y'all. I promise y'all won't be long. You can stand if you want to, see if you can. It doesn't really matter to me. I promise you by the time you stand, I'll be finished reading. John 21st chapter, coming out of that 3rd verse, and focusing on just the A section of that verse, where Peter said, I'm going fishing. That's it. I told you, by the time you stand, I'll be done. I want to use as a title this morning, if I can, want to get away. Want to get away. Trying to let my nerves subside, because even though I've been here before and you've heard me before, I still get nervous. Have you ever just had enough? I mean, have you ever gone from breaking point to past point of breaking? I think I can say that a little better than what I said. Has life ever lifed the life out of you? Now, the longer you life has a way of sucking life out of you. Don't ask me to repeat that, because I promise you I probably can't. But if I'm open and I'm honest and transparent, God and I, we really haven't been seeing eye to eye for some time now. It seems as if he's allowing life to hit me with life and not allowing life to come back in me. Yeah. You can sit there and look at it with judgmental eyes if you want to, but just keep on living. Because if it hasn't happened to you yet, I promise you, please understand that life knows your address and will be knocking at your door before long. You don't believe me? This is more of a testimony than it is anything else. Just yesterday, in preparation and trying to finish up my sermonic notes. No, don't turn that off, it's out of here. Trying to finish up my sermonic notes. Soon as my son and we arrived back home from his piano lesson, as soon as we got home, I walked in my house and I noticed that my downstairs AC unit had gone off. It was no longer working, which is one reason why I asked him to keep that fan going. The problem with that is, the day prior to it, they had came and serviced my AC unit. And so, I promise you, I know Jesus, I love Christ, all that good stuff, but when I picked up the phone and had a conversation with Milestone, that conversation was not one of Christ. I'll say it that way. And then, in the midst of me being on the phone with Milestone, my line started beeping. And while my line was beeping, normally I would ignore it because, A1, I'm too dark to be hot. And so, normally I would ignore it, normally. But this time I looked and it was my wife calling me. And my wife kept calling me. So I sent a text message, hey, I'll call you right back in just a minute, trying to deal with something right now. Lo and behold to me, the very moment while I was on the phone with Milestone, she had gotten into a car accident. Someone had rear-ended her. So life has a way of lifing the life out of you. Yeah. Tupac wrote a song many years ago. Don't look at me like that. Don't act like you didn't listen to Tupac and Biggie back in the day. The hook of that song was, it came from Frankie Beverly and Maze. Can't think of the actual song. But it goes as such, there's so much pressure in the air, I can't get away. I'm not happy here. Southwest Airlines went so far as to take that slogan, want to get away, and make it a slogan. And then they went even further than that, took that and made it into a package, because they understand that every now and then, as I said, life will life the life out of you, and you just want to get away. My old pastor, Pastor F.L. Anderson, he used to say, if it ain't, right before he stood for prayer, he would say, if it ain't one thing, it's another. Yeah. Meaning that no matter how you try and dodge problems, no matter how you try and live right and do right, life has a way of changing on you. Yeah. My granddaddy would say, affectionately known as Papa, he would say that the wind don't blow the same direction all the time. Yeah. And that was his way of telling us and letting us know that sometimes life will change on you in just an instant. Yeah. Matter of fact, the past few weeks here in North Texas, we've been victims of these scattered thunderstorms. They seem to pop up out of nowhere, make a whole lot of noise, and pour a whole lot of rain. Yeah. But I declare and I decree right now, you may be experiencing some turbulent times. And yes, you may be climbing mountain after mountain. But I can stand here and say that even the rain clouds run out of rain. Yeah. And everything will be all right. Yeah. So check this. I promise you, I told you I ain't gonna be in front of you too long. This message is not for everybody. But for those of you who are open and honest enough to say, time out. This is especially for us men. It's Father's Day. So shout out to all the fathers in the house who try and hold it down every single day. But somehow, some way, life just comes in and just sucker punches us. Yeah. We try and hold that facade that everything is all right and everything is going to be all right, but deep down inside, we're hurting. Deep down inside, we're in deep pain. So, fellas, I'm going fishing. If there was ever anybody who knew how he felt or how it feels for life to change on him, it was Chris Gardner. Y'all all know Chris Gardner. He had invested all his money in his portable bone density machine. And he was trying to sell it to doctors across the Bay Area. Yeah. He was going to doctor after doctor, unsuccessful sale after unsuccessful sale, so much so that his wife, girlfriend, whatever her title was, decided to put him out. And she didn't just put him out, she put him and his son out. Yeah. So they became homeless. So I'm going to put a pin in it right there. Not all homeless people are lazy. Not all homeless people are strung out on drugs. Yeah. Not all homeless people are just looking for a handout. Matter of fact, a lot of us are just one bad break from being homeless, if you really want to know the truth about it. Yeah. But here goes Chris. He had gone past rock bottom, and he only had $25 in his pocket to take care of himself and his son. Yeah. So here we have in our text this morning, the disciples. They've been going through some things. They found out that everybody in your circle you can't count on. Judas slipped in to the group and he shook things up with a kiss that lets you know that you can't let everybody hug and kiss on you. Then they watched from a distance as Jesus hung, bled, and died on the cross. That was a down moment. Then Jesus did exactly what he said he was going to do when he got up on that third day. And he showed himself to the disciples, with the exception of Thomas, because Thomas was feeling himself, understandably so. That was an up moment. Then Jesus disappears all over again. Have you ever felt like the time when you needed God most? Yeah. He wasn't there. Yeah. That's how the disciples were feeling at that time. So essentially, Peter said, "Hold up, I can't take this anymore. I'm going fishing." Which brings me to my first point. I only got 3 of them. I'm going to be right back in that seat here in just a moment. The first point that I want to make, that I pulled from the text, that God showed me in the text, is that don't forget where you started. The question is, why would Peter want to go fishing? I mean, I understand that was his trade. That's how Peter made his money to support his family. But why go back to where you left? To find that answer, you have to travel back into the Genesis of Mark, first chapter, right around verses 16 and 17, and 16 and 18, you'll find out that that's the spot or the point where he met Jesus. That's the place where Jesus called Peter into the ministry. At that time, he was called Simon, but I'm going to back to that here in just a moment. It was fishing that made him happy. So he wanted to return to his happy place.
Yeah.
On June 9th, 2023, this year, my wife and I, we celebrated 11 years. I know that don't sound like a whole lot to some people, but in this microwave generation, that is a long time.
Yeah.
Because now they want a lasting relationship after the first date. They've already planned place settings, have his and her t-shirts after the second date. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. You have to work it if it's worth it. And so we decided a long time ago, before 11 years ago, before we got married, that it was worth it, so we were going to make sure that we worked it. We have had many turbulent times, surgeries, we've had death of her father-in-law, my mother-in-law. So this year we decided we would not travel. We normally go take these big vacations, we go on cruises, we fly to wherever just to get away from everybody, get to a spot where if you call me, we can only talk about 22 seconds because it's going to get expensive after that. But this year we decided to stay at home. We wanted to go back to our happy place, our special place, because as I mentioned a few moments ago, just it hasn't even been a year in which she lost her mother, my mother-in-law. So for our sanity's sake, we decided that we just wanted to have a peaceful home. That was the same mentality up here. He just wanted to be happy. So he returned to the place where he first met Jesus. What would happen if you took a little time and you went back to that spot where you first received Christ?
Yeah.
What would happen if you went back to that sweet spot where you first walked hand in hand and you were so in love with God and His Word? Mm-hmm. What would happen? How would things change for you? Yeah. How would your perspective change? How would you feel if you were to take it back just a little bit? Well, Peter decided to do that. I needed to go back to my special place. I need to go sit and listen to the fish jump around in the water. I'm not a fisherman. Matter of fact, the only thing I've ever caught out there is just a cold. And I've seen people pull in big mouth bass and catfish, and I'm looking at my pole trying to figure out what's wrong with my pole. Come to find out, it's not the pole, it's the fishing. But I'll get to that here in just a second. As he wrestled with the fish, he just wanted to just reflect from time to time, just like, I need to go back to my special spot, my sweet place. Which brings me to my second point. I told y'all I'd be quick. Because my mama cooking, and you know, y'all done had my mama cooking before, so I have to say nothing else. So my second point is say my name. Will Smith. Bless his heart. Despite all the things that surround him, I can say this. Will Smith is a phenomenal actor. He has starred in multiple roles, multiple movies. He's done multiple things. He's very talented. But this one role that above all others, with the exception of one more, that I've got to give him credit for is Ali. He played Muhammad Ali like nobody else could. Mm-hmm. There was this one part in the movie where this other boxer, whose name escapes me, disrespected Ali. It was right after he changed his name from Cassius to Muhammad Ali. The boxer, in the midst of the interview, had the unmitigated gall to call Muhammad Ali Cassius. Ali stood up, he said, that's not my name. Ain't got time to deal with that. He said, that's not my name. My name is Muhammad Ali, and that's what you're gonna call me. And so he turned back, he looked at him and said, now your mama named you Cassius, so I'm gonna call you Cassius. And he kept calling him Cassius. So he got Chris Rock right there in the middle of that press conference. The fight ensues. Him and Ali are engaged, and every time Ali would go back and swing, he'd say, say my name. And then, he used other words I can't say right now. And then he hit him again, he said, say my name. And then as he laid on the ground, he told him, you don't say my name. And then, so let's travel back to the book of Mark again. Mm-hmm. Jesus, when he first met Peter, his name was Simon. Mm-hmm. And he told Simon, and his name will now be called Simon Peter.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
He told Simon his name will now be Simon Peter. I can tell you paying attention in Bible study.
Yeah.
Y'all about like me during BTU and all these other classes. When I was younger, I didn't pay any attention either. So let me help you out just a little bit. Peter's name translates into rock.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jesus knew ahead of time
Yeah.
what the disciples were going to need through Peter. So he began to call him rock.
Yeah.
Call him Peter. And so during those turbulent times, and you want to get away from it all, just remember the name that Jesus gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the name that God gave you. Remember who God called you to be. He called you to be the head and not the tail.
Yeah.
He said that you are more than a conqueror.
Yeah.
He said that your name is victory. So time out, I'm going fishing.
Yeah.
So the rock had to make a return to his place of tranquility.
Yeah.
He had to return to the place where he first found out who he was, because his identity was uniquely tied to his genesis with Jesus. Which brings me to my third point. I told you I was going to be quick. And that is, when you show up, Jesus will show out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After a long night of toil,
Come on, man.
nothing.
Yeah.
After casting nets and waiting
Yeah.
and pulling the nets back in, nothing. They were professional fishermen. So you would think that they catch something,
Right.
but nothing.
Yes, sir.
See if I can make it plain. After fasting and praying,
Yes, sir.
your child, your relative,
Yeah.
still goes to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
After laying out at the altar, speaking in unknown tongues,
Yeah.
time and time again,
Yeah.
the prognosis of cancer gets worse. I experienced that. After doing all that you were supposed to do, you still get negative results.
Yeah.
Who am I talking to? Other than me.
Yeah.
You've done everything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but nothing changes.
Yeah.
You go to marriage counseling,
Yeah.
still get a divorce.
Yeah.
Why is what used to work no longer work anymore?
Yeah.
Well, I have this iPhone, and you Android users, so I'm gonna pray for you. Every few months, I ain't never had problems with the iPhone like I did with Android. Every few months, I get an alert on my phone that I didn't get on my Android, that an update is needed. It tells me the details of the update. It lets me know that some of the older versions of the apps will no longer be usable because there's an updated version.
Yeah.
There's an alert that goes off and it tells me that I can either update it now or I can wait until later on at nighttime.
Right.
Then it also goes on to tell me that the update will go faster and be more efficient if I'm in Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that.
I-
So, the update goes a little faster if I'm within the zone of Wi-Fi. Something that's a little stronger. My connection gets a little stronger
Yeah.
the closer I get to the power source.
Yeah.
But could it be that what you're doing no longer works because you're in need of an update? Could it be that what used to work no longer works because you drifted further from the source of power?
Okay.
Well, God is trying to delete some of those useless apps that you've been accustomed to using. It's time for an upgrade.
Wow.
And so here go the disciples, throwing those nets out, pulling them back in again, throwing those nets out, pulling them back in again, sitting out on that water. It's nighttime, so it's cold, it's dark, it's quiet.
Yeah.
Only thing you hear are your thoughts, which can be a dangerous thing from time to time if you don't have your mindset in the right spot.
Right, right.
Now here comes this stranger, asking questions, standing on the shore. Have you caught anything? Me being who I am, I'm a little sarcastic. I get it from my mama.
Yeah.
Dude, you team me. You see what we're doing. You see me throw these nets out. You see what I'm doing. So you gonna ask me if I got? That ain't what I asked you. I asked you, have you caught anything? Did what you did last night work? Has what you've been doing in the dark made you feel any better? Been a little messy with you. Did it provide substance? Has what you've been doing behind closed doors opened any doors for you? The Bible says that all of them said no. At this time, the Bible says that they didn't know who the stranger was. They didn't realize that was Jesus. I'm sure they were kind of skeptical at this point. Because the stranger had a coach's side view. Those of you who've ever played sports before, basketball, football, your coach has a unique view of the game that's taking place. The coach is standing on the outside of the game, looking on the inside of the game, telling you which plays to call. So that's why the stranger said, hey, throw it on the right side of the boat. That's where fish are. It was at that moment where the one whom Jesus loved, you know something, when you're known by your associations and not your actual name?
Yeah.
The one whom Jesus loved said, that's Jesus. Peter got an epiphany. Peter said, you know what? Last time this happened, I left Jesus high and dry. So Peter put his cloak on. They said, the Bible says it was about 100 yards out, and he just jumped straight into the water and went straight for Jesus. And what he found out was, not only was that Jesus standing there, but Jesus had a prepared blessing for him. He was cooking some fish. He was cooking breakfast. So, as I promised, I'm closing now, so we can enjoy this Father's Day, and I can go to my mama's house and I can eat. One of my wife and our favorite pastimes is we like to watch Netflix. I know. Blame it on the pandemic. Pandemic got us caught up in all these different Netflix series, Hulu series. We got all of the streaming stations that you can pretty much imagine. And that's all we used to do during pandemic when we were shut down, because, I mean, she couldn't go nowhere, I couldn't go nowhere, we're getting on each other's nerves, so hey, let's just turn on TV and get caught up in something. And that's what happened. We got caught up in Netflix series after Netflix. You laughing, so you know what I'm talking about. Netflix series after Netflix series. And so this one time, this old movie came on. It's really not that old, but it is old. That we may have only watched one time. And my mama would classify it as mindless TV. The Water Boy. Yeah, I know. When that's on, we watched everything on Netflix, and yeah, it is what it is. So we got caught up watching The Water Boy. But it is mindless TV, but there is some comedic relief inside of the movie. And then there's this one scene towards the end of the movie where Bobby Boucher, he was at the hospital with his mama because his mama was faking being sick. And he was rushing trying to get to the championship game. The team had gone into halftime, and it looked like they were losing. And so I understand right now you're going into halftime. The score is not favorable for you, so it looks like that you're in a losing situation. But what happened was when they got into the halftime, the players started sitting around and they began to reminisce a little bit. They got to thinking about all the different things that Bobby was doing, or Bobby did when he was on the football team. One player spoke up and said, do you remember that time when Bobby went after that fan who was heckling him in the middle of the football game? And then the other football players began to laugh. And another one stepped out and said, well, what about that time when the professor was talking about Bobby and his mama, and so Bobby went charging for him in the middle of the class, and he tackled him in the middle of the class. So they began to have these different conversations, and what they realized was that in the middle of those conversations, a healing took place. So the disciples on that boat, they began to think and they began to reflect. If I use my imagination, remember that time when Jesus turned water into wine?
Yeah.
And then another one spoke up. How about that time when we were walking through the crowd and we were pressed between the crowd, and this woman who had issues with blood just took a leap of faith and reached out and touched Jesus and immediately got healed.
Yeah.
And then another one said, you think that's something? What about that time when he called Lazarus from the dead?
Yeah.
And then another one said, how about that time when you think that was something? He called Lazarus from the dead. How about that time on Friday when they lynched him like a real black man here in America? They lynched him and took him from court to court, and then they hung him on that cross. And then on all day Friday, he just sat there and he died. And Saturday, it was halftime. But something happened on that Sunday morning where Jesus got up from the dead. So it's not just that he raised Lazarus, he raised himself from the dead.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing here to say, as I take my seat, that yes, you may be in a dry time. Yes, pain may be hurting you left and right. But wait on the Lord. Be of good courage. Every time that you wonder and worry about how things are going to make it and you just want to get away, think back on these things. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength.
Yeah.
They shall mount upon wings as eagle, run and not be weary, walk and not faint. And I'll stop right there. Wait on the Lord.